Two good things about getting old: cheaper motorcycle insurance and salesmen trust me with any bike I like. There'd been a bit of a misunderstanding with our email exchange a few days earlier, and when the sales guy at BMW Faro here walked me over to where all their demonstrators were parked, he handed me the key to their brand new S1000XR, 210 horsepower, 113 newton meters of torque. I must admit to being tempted, but I just didn't have time. I was here for my next bike, a replacement for my Tiger 900. No urgency, but I do enjoy the research. Yeah, sorry, I said to the sales guy, I think there's been a mix-up. I actually came for the S1000XR. So here I am riding through Faro in southern Portugal on the way to the marina to get some nice photos. Only 170 horsepower, but what strikes me right away in these crowded labyrinthine back streets is how the bike is straining at the leash permanently, desperate to show me what it's capable of. If only I'd give it some more fuel. The ride is race bike firm, but it's not exactly uncomfortable, and the riding position is actually not as sporty as I'd feared. A couple of other giveaways to the race breeding though are the buttery smooth and lightning fast quick shifter, the mega bitey brakes, and the stiff racing clutch. There's not much slip, and I stalled the bike 2 or 3 times when pulling away in first because the clutch is either in or out. It takes some getting used to, but it's fine once you're up to speed. The M brakes are phenomenally powerful, and the firm suspension setup, 150mm travel front and rear apparently, but you wouldn't think so, means there's a minimum fork dive. The feeling through the lever is spot on. The firm suspension makes riding over Portugal's famous cobbled back streets a bit of a chore, but I wouldn't say the S1000XR is uncomfortable. Less comfortable than my Tiger 900 adventure bike, of course, but this is a sort of hybrid sports all-rounder, so that's perfectly understandable. The other thing you notice on this M Package edition is the noise from the Akrapovic exhaust. You might be able to catch a glimpse of another bike in my mirrors here. I didn't know them, but I saw they were riding a sporty roadster of some kind, maybe an MT-09 or MT-10, that kind of thing. I could hear them close behind me all the time, the loud wail of an aftermarket exhaust with the baffle removed. Oh, another yob, I thought, except that, after a minute or two, I noticed they'd turned off, and the antisocial noise was actually coming from me. To be fair, I wouldn't go as far as to say that the noise was obnoxious. Let's be generous and call it characterful. But I do think it would get on my nerves after a while, especially around town. So if you're thinking about the M Package, then the Akrapovic exhaust is definitely something you need to consider. So after what was a painfully slow ride from the dealership to the marina, not at all suitable for this kind of bike, let's do a quick walk around before we find some faster roads. And it's a good looking bike with some nice premium touches. This particular bike had the £3,000 M Package option, which gives you this lovely white, blue and red paintwork. The standard black and even the £400 extra blue sport finish don't look nearly so inspiring in my opinion. £3,000 is a hefty premium though, but at least this also gets you some nice options, including Alcantara seats, both for the rider and passenger, sport windscreen, which is lower and narrower than standard, lighter black anodized forged wheels, which reduce the gyroscopic forces and improve handling, 5mm thick brake discs. I think the standard ones are 4mm thick, a lap timer, which is useful if you intend taking the bike on a track, which you can easily do, the famous Akrapovic exhaust that I mentioned a few minutes ago, a lightweight battery, and the M Endurance gold-coloured chain, which is supposed to be pretty much maintenance-free. Anyway, enough messing about, let's get her out on the open road, where she's basically a surface-to-surface missile, hence the thumbnail. At least if you're prepared to work for it. How does 180 km an hour in third gear sound? I suppose the most important thing in a bike like this is the engine. 170 horsepower and 114 newton meters, down on the 210 of the bonkers RR and M1000XR because you don't get the shift cam technology, but it's still a lot. However, you have to work for it. Maximum horsepower is achieved at 11,000 RPM, not an issue on the track, but on roads like this, unless you ride around in first or second gear, how often are you realistically going to be anywhere near 11,000 RPM, at least if you value your license? Below 6,000 RPM, honestly, it feels, I'm not going to say slow, but it feels like a normal 9,500 horsepower roadster. Spin it up above 7,000 RPM and yes, the power's there, but with maximum torque arriving at 12,000 RPM, as you might imagine at normal road or even motorway speeds, it doesn't really feel that fast. I'm sure it is on paper, push it over 8,000 RPM and it literally took my breath away. But what I try to convey in these videos is how a bike makes you feel. You can of course engage cruise control in 6th gear and waft along like any normal bike, but I don't think you buy an X1000XR to waft, do you? That said, it is relatively relaxing at cruising speeds, no vibrations felt through the bars, foot pegs or the seat, although weirdly I could see some vibration in the mirrors. As I've mentioned, the S1000XR has phenomenal brakes, superb handling for a tall rounder, but firm seat and suspension, and an engine that only gives its best when I keep the revs at twice what I'd normally be at. But that's me, I enjoy beefy torque monsters rather than screamers like this, and 4-cylinder engines aren't usually my favourites. If you're coming from a sports bike, looking for similar performance only with more room, greater practicality and the latest technology, then the 1000XR is a top candidate. Coming from a roadster or adventure bike with a beefy twin or triple engine, well, maybe. All I would say is give the XR a good test drive before you sign. Gearbox and fuel economy. Well, first off, I have to give a special mention to the quick shifter. Wow. I thought my Tigers was smooth, but the XR has literally imperceptible gear changes both up and down. It's like having flappy paddles in a car, and is further proof that what you're getting here is really a jacked up race bike. It's been built for the track, and you can tell, and in many ways it's more convincing even than Honda's new e-clutch systems that I tested on the CB650R a couple of months ago. In addition to the hyper-efficient quick shifter reminding you constantly that you're basically sitting on a race bike, the clutch lever is also really heavy, with only about a centimetre of travel between the clutch being fully in and the clutch being fully out. It took quite a bit of getting used to, and I stalled 3 or 4 times during the test ride, something I rarely do on a bike, and I definitely gave my left hand a workout whilst I was riding around the town. Compared to the previous generation, 4th, 5th and 6th gears have been made taller to improve fuel economy. I averaged 7.3 litres per 100 kilometres during the time I had the bike, which is 39 mpg UK and 32 mpg US, so not really that good. But to be fair, I was either stuck in slow-moving city traffic or performance testing, so that's probably on the worst case end of the scale. That said, if you're going for a 170 horsepower 4-cylinder race bike, then economy probably isn't at the top of your priority list anyway. You get 4 riding modes: Rain, Road Dynamic and Dynamic Pro. I was in road most of the time. I tried sport, that didn't really feel that different, although I think it probably would on a track. I also tried Rain, which is more noticeable as torque is capped at 90 Newton meters in the lower gears, just to keep things a little bit safer. You get an inertial measurement unit with traction control, anti-wheelie, hill start assist and cornering ABS. Semi-active suspension via dynamic ESA is standard, with the Pro version offering 2 more damping modes. Travel is, as I mentioned, 150 millimeters front and rear, but it doesn't feel that generous, to be honest. This is firm suspension. The forks in particular are really quite hard. Handling. Sharp is the word that springs immediately to mind. Super light 17-inch forged wheel front and back. Rake is a fairly sporty 24.9 degrees, down from 25.5 on the previous generation, and the wheelbase is a compact 1522mm. The rear tyre is the full fat 190mm, which usually isn't conducive to quick turn-in, but handling on the XR is, as I say, pin sharp, especially considering this is a tall bike. The chassis is stiff, but not excessively so, with just the right amount of flex built in, and there's no jerkiness at all in the drivetrain when pulling hard out of corners. So who is this bike for? Well, as I'm always on the lookout for my next bike, I was hoping it might be for me. The stats are certainly appealing, but as much as I enjoyed the XR, it's just a bit too angry for me as an everyday bike, especially in this M package, guys. The riding position is actually fine, reminded me of the Tiger Sport 800 I tested a couple of weeks ago, but the Kropovich exhaust and firm suspension would, I fear, get on my nerves after a while, and the power is just too hard to access. I'm more a low down torque guy, which is why I like my Speed Twin 1200 so much. Lazy power. The XR is the polar opposite, super fast at high revs around a track, probably, or if you're really in the mood in the twisties, phenomenal brakes and cutting edge tech, but as a daily rider, as an only bike, no, not really. If you want a sports tourer, I think there are more versatile, more comfortable, some might say more boring bikes out there, and if you're looking for a sports bike, then I'd go for the similarly priced S1000RR with its shift cam technology and even more power. I'll risk another strange analogy. I saw the trailer for the new Mission Impossible movie a couple of hours ago. It's due for release in a few weeks' time. Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, I think it's called. And as I was watching it, I thought, this reminds me of the S1000XR. Absolutely awesome and cutting edge, but ultimately and perhaps inexplicably leaves me a bit cold and indifferent. That's maybe a bit unfair, but I genuinely thought it, so I thought I'd mention it. It's a fantastic machine, but it has no soul and just doesn't get my juices flowing. It's probably just my age, sorry, but at least I get cheap insurance, eh? Incidentally, I took the R1300 GS Adventure and the Triumph Tiger 1200 out immediately after finishing with this XR for a back-to-back comparison. And no surprises, they feel completely different to the XR. Just how different, I'll tell you in the next video, so please think of subscribing if you'd like to hear more, and let me know in the comments if you've ridden any of these Uber BMWs and what you think of them. And also, as always, thanks for watching.